Hey, what's up YouTube? So today I'm going to showcase a Oakensoul heavy attack build for the Magicka Sorcerer, updated for the Scribes of Fate DLC patch. This build parses 100k on the trial dummy and is optimized for group content. As with all heavy attack builds, this build utilizes only heavy attacks and thus no light attacks are required. Because this is a hybrid build and we are in medium armor, penetration can become an issue. Furthermore, this is not a solo build, but with a skill changer too, it should be fine for overland content as well. So for Scribes of Fate, there was a few changes to heavy attack Oakensoul builds. The first one being that elemental susceptibility got nerfed a little bit, changing the duration for each status effect to occur from 6 to 7.5 seconds. And another change that happened was Oakensoul will not be viable anymore in Cloud Rest because the Voltaic Overload, or bar swap mechanic as we know it, will now affect Oakensoul users. Nonetheless, Oakensoul heavy attack builds are still viable for almost all content and still very effective. So with that being said, here we go. So as per usual, starting off in the character sheet, I have 64 points in a Magicka, and I'm running the Thief Mundus. For the race, we're a High Elf because High Elves have some of the best passives for Magicka DPS. For the food, you have two options. First is going to be running blue Bystat food, so something like Solitude Salmon Millet Soup, which increases our health and mag. Or we can opt to run Tristat food for a little bit extra stamina as well. For the potions, you don't really need potions because Sustain is really good on a heavy attack build. You can opt to run something like a Tristat potion as a way to get either mag, stam, or even as a pseudo heal. So for CP, for the blue tree, we're going to be running Backstabber, Deadly Aim, Weapons Expert, and Exploiter. Swap out Backstabber for fighting finesse if you can't flank the enemy. For the red CP, Balanced Vitality, Fortified, Rejuvenation, and Celerity. You can swap out Rejuvenation for something else because we do have a ton of sustain on this build. So for the gear, we're going to be running the standard Sergeant's Mail paired with Stormmaster, One Piece Slime Crawl, and Oakensoul setup. So for the main hand, we have a Precise Lightning Staff for the Sergeant with a shock damage enchant. For the head slot, we have a Light Slime Crawl in Divines with a max mag enchant. For one piece of the body, and preferably the chest, we have one piece of Sergeant's Mail. This is in Divines with a max mag enchant. For 5 pieces of the body, we have Stormmaster, all traded in Divines with max mag enchants. For the jewelry, we have 2 pieces of Sergeant's Mail jewelry, both traded in Bloodthirsty with a weapon and spell damage enchant. And lastly, for the Oakensoul ring, this is also Bloodthirsty with a weapon and spell damage enchant. So for the skills, we're running Daedric Prey, makes all of your pets hit harder and does good damage. Barb Trap, this is kind of our flex spot, but for trial dummy purposes and more damage, this is actually a good skill. It gives Fighters Guild passive and also procs a ton of hemorrhaging. Minor Force is not necessary because of Oakensoul. Hurricane gives a little bit of resistance and a little bit of speed through Minor Resolve and Minor Expedition and does good damage. Don't recast this early because the damage ramps up. Volatile Familiar, our first pet, cast this because the damage it does when you cast it is also good. And Twilight Tormentor, you can cast this if you want when the target is above 50% health, but it's not that much more damage. And Greater Storm Atronach as our ultimate. And as far as all heavy attack rotations go, just hold down the heavy attack, Q in the skill before the animation for the heavy attack finishes. The skill priority I'd recommend is Daedric Prey, Barb Trap, Hurricane, and then Volatile Familiar. Twilight Tormentor is optional. I've noticed I've done better with it activated and without it activated, so just make sure you cast it for the pre-buff before you start the parse or the fight. And Greater Storm Atronach, you can just use that whenever it's ready. I would also prioritize Daedric Prey being active on the target before I drop it for that extra damage boost. And lastly, as a tip, if you need to cast more than one skill for whatever reason, feel free to cast more than one skill per heavy attack. It's not going to drop your DPS that much. So for closing thoughts, you can swap out your Twilight Tormentor for Matriarch for a really nice burst heal. I'd also like to add that Crystal Weapon is a good skill to run, especially in a group full of heavy attack builds in medium armor, or just medium armor in general, because this is going to reduce the target's armor by 1000 and furthermore proc the Minor Prophecy passive, which gives spell crit to the whole group. So in content, I definitely recommend running Unstable Wall paired with a shock damage enchant to proc more off balance, because when enemies are off balance, you can benefit from an increased damage to heavy attacks. For parsing purposes, flame or even poison glyph would do more damage because off balance is naturally applied to the target dummy. As far as alternative gear sets go, you have the two Undaunted sets. They're both really good. It's just their 2 to 4 piece is not the greatest, and the damage boost to heavy attacks is just a little bit less than Stormmaster or Sergeant's Mail. Noble Duelist, Infallible Aether, and Night Slayer, they're all light armor sets, so they're good options if you need more penetration. The thing about Infallible Aether is, since we're using Oakensoul and it's giving us Minor Slayer, you can't benefit from that either. And out of all of the heavy attack sets, it does have the lowest boost to flat heavy attack damage. On the other hand, Noble Duelist is a really strong light armor set with a really nice heavy attack bonus. The issue is you have to be pretty close to the target to benefit from it. And lastly, Night Slayer is an okay set, especially if you're starting a heavy attack build and you don't have access to the other sets. That wraps up the build explanation section of this portion. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, or better yet, come join our Discord. Link is in the description. I will have a written guide attached in the description for those who would prefer that. And as always, thank you to my YouTube members. If you want to help me support my content creation, please consider becoming a member. And as always, thanks again, and see you in the next one.